We all remember Toys R Us, right? That giant giraffe, the endless aisles of toys. It was just a magical place. And most of us think we know why it died. Amazon came along, Walmart undercut them, the internet changed everything. But that's not the real story, not even close. The real story is a lot darker, way more complex, and it all comes down to a single, absolutely staggering number that sealed its fate long before the doors ever closed.
For generations of kids, this place wasn't just a store. It was, as some have put it, a sprawling, carpeted cathedral of plastic and dreams. I mean, at its peak, it was the undisputed king of toys. Think about this. Almost 1 out of every 5 toys sold in the entire country came from Toys R Us. It felt like it would be there forever, a permanent part of growing up. But while we were all staring at the toys, the foundation of this entire empire was already rotting away.
And this is the real villain of the story. $5.2 billion. Now, this wasn't debt from bad sales or because they made a few bad product choices. No. This was a debt that was deliberately placed on the company's back. It was a financial anchor that made it completely impossible for them to ever compete again. This number, this is the key to the whole tragedy.
So to really get how they ended up so vulnerable, we have to rewind the clock and go back to their golden age. Because before Toys R Us was the victim, they were the ones on the attack. They were the original category killer, a retail giant that just completely and utterly dominated its industry.
So it all kicked off with a pretty humble baby furniture store way back in 1948. From there, the founder, Charles Lazarus, came up with this revolutionary idea for a toy supermarket. And by the 1990s, that idea had exploded into a true monopoly, an unmatched empire built on just massive size and selection. They were literally on top of the world.
But here's the thing about being on top, right? Success can make you complacent. And that's exactly what happened. While they were absolute masters of the physical store, the digital world was coming up fast, and they made 2 just catastrophic errors that left them wide open.
First off, their first shot at e-commerce in 1999 was a complete train wreck. They couldn't get gifts to kids in time for Christmas, a total disaster. And in a panic, they made their second, even bigger mistake. They just gave up. In 2000, they signed a 10-year deal to let this small, kind of scrappy company called Amazon handle their entire online business. They literally handed the keys to their future to the very company that would become their biggest rival.
So fast forward to the early 2000s. With their online business now in someone else's hands, Toys R Us found itself stuck in this impossible position, fighting a brutal war on 2 totally separate fronts.
And this is so important to understand. Look at how they were getting attacked. On one side, you've got the giants like Walmart and Target. They didn't even care about making money on toys. They sold them for dirt cheap just to get families in the door to buy other stuff. Toys R Us couldn't win on price. Then, on the other side, you had Amazon, who was using that 10-year deal to learn the entire toy business. And then, surprise, surprise, they started selling toys themselves, totally crushing Toys R Us on convenience.
Now, Toys R Us did sue Amazon for breaking their deal, and hey, they won $51 million. But it was a totally hollow victory. See, the real cost wasn't the money, it was time. They had lost years and years of critical experience in the online world, falling hopelessly behind. And it was this weakened state that made them the perfect target for what was about to happen next.
And here it is. This is the heart of the story. In 2005, with the company already struggling, a group of private equity firms saw blood in the water. They swooped in to buy the company, not really to save it, but to squeeze every last drop of value out of it using a very powerful and very dangerous financial tool.
That tool is called a leveraged buyout, or an LBO. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's brutal. Basically, you buy a company, but you don't use your own money. You use mostly borrowed money, debt. And then here's the kicker. You make the company you just bought responsible for paying it all back.
Okay, so this slide shows you the play-by-play. 3 big firms, Bain Capital, KKR, and Vornado, teamed up. They put in a little of their own cash, sure, but they borrowed over $5 billion to make the deal happen. And then came the killer move, step 4, right here. In a maneuver that is, believe it or not, perfectly legal, they transferred that entire loan right onto the books of Toys R Us. All of a sudden, the company itself was on the hook for paying back the money that was used to buy it. It's insane.
And this chart just perfectly illustrates the chokehold. Every single year, Toys R Us was forced to pay around $450 million just in interest payments. That's money that couldn't be used to update their old, tired stores. It couldn't be used to build a modern website.
It couldn't be used to fight back against Amazon or Walmart. The company was literally being starved of the cash it needed to survive. And this, right here, is the main takeaway of this entire story. The company already had problems, we've talked about that. But this massive debt, it acted like a giant multiplier. It was like pouring gasoline on a small fire. It took manageable issues like competition and needing to innovate, and it turned them into a fatal, inescapable crisis. Survival was just no longer in the cards.
So from that point on, the end was really just a matter of time. The final chapter is pretty grim, but it's a really important look at what happens when a company just can't outrun its own debt.
For 12 long years after that buyout, the company basically just scraped by, slowly decaying under the crushing weight of its debt. By 2017, it couldn't make the payments anymore and filed for bankruptcy. But even that couldn't save it. Suppliers got nervous and started demanding cash up front for toys, cash the company just didn't have. And by 2018, it was all over.
And this is the real human cost of that $5 billion deal. 33,000 people. 33,000 employees lost their jobs when the company was liquidated. A financial game played in a boardroom had devastating real-world consequences for tens of thousands of families.
So the collapse of this icon leaves us with 3 huge lessons. First, that massive debt is a multiplier that can turn any problem deadly. Second, in today's world, physical stores have to sell an experience, not just stuff on a shelf. They have to feel magical. And finally, you can never, ever outsource your company's future, especially not to the person who wants to eat your lunch.
The story of Toys R Us isn't just about a toy store. It's a really powerful cautionary tale about debt, about innovation, and about the invisible financial forces that can bring down even the biggest giants we know. And it leaves all of us with one pretty haunting question. Which of the brands we love today might be carrying a similar silent burden?